The rain tapped gently against the cafe window as the city outside glowed under flickering streetlights. It was a quiet evening, the kind where time moved slow and hearts grew heavier. Behind the glass in the farthest corner of the cafe sat Adrian Hale, the CEO of Hale Enterprises, one of the most powerful companies in the city. To the world, he was a man who had everything: success, money, respect. But inside, he was a hollow echo of who he used to be. He hadn't smiled in years, not since the accident that took his wife and daughter. The two people who made his heart beat had vanished in a single, cruel moment. Since then, the nights were all the same. He'd come to this little cafe, the one his late wife loved, order her favorite coffee and sit in silence. It was his only way of feeling close to her. The cafe staff had learned not to bother him. The young barista would place his drink quietly on the table, whisper a polite "good evening," and leave him alone. People watched him sometimes, whispering about how a man so rich could look so lost. On this evening, as the rain thickened, the cafe door opened with a small chime. A girl no older than 7 stepped inside, holding a pink umbrella and dragging a small school bag. Her brown hair was tied into 2 uneven ponytails, her shoes wet from the puddles outside. She looked around curiously before her eyes landed on Adrian. She walked up to his table without hesitation. Her big brown eyes studied his face, and after a long moment she tilted her head and asked, "Are you okay, sir?" Adrian blinked, startled. No one had spoken to him like that in years. For a moment he didn't know how to respond. "I'm fine," he managed to say, though his voice was rough, uncertain. But the girl didn't move away. She climbed onto the chair across from him and rested her chin on her hands. "You don't look fine," she said quietly. "You look lonely." Her honesty hit him like a wave. The innocence in her voice, the way her eyes saw straight through his expensive suit, tore down every wall he'd built. He tried to smile, but it faltered halfway. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Leela," she said proudly. "My mom works here. She's the one who makes the cakes." Adrian turned slightly and saw a woman behind the counter, mid-30s, tired but graceful, with flour dusting her apron. She looked up and smiled apologetically. "Leela, honey, don't bother the customer," she called out. "It's okay," Adrian said before she could pull her daughter away. "She's not bothering me." Leela grinned. "See, Mommy," he said, "it's okay." The woman shook her head and went back to work, and Adrian turned back to the little girl. They sat quietly for a few moments before she spoke again. "You know, my daddy left when I was a baby," Leela said, fiddling with the handle of her umbrella. "Sometimes Mommy looks sad too. She pretends she's okay, but I know she misses him." Adrian felt his chest tighten. "That must be hard," he murmured. Leela nodded. "Yeah, but Mommy says when people leave they become stars, so I talk to the stars sometimes." He swallowed hard. "That's a beautiful thought." "You should talk to them too," she said brightly. "You look like someone who misses a star." Her words struck deep. For the first time in years he laughed, a small, broken sound but real, and Leela smiled as if she had just fixed something that had been broken for too long. As the night went on, they talked about everything: her school, her favorite books, the cat she wanted but couldn't have because their landlord didn't allow pets. When her mother finally came to take her home, Adrian found himself saying, "May I walk you two to your car?" The woman hesitated. "That's kind of you, but it's fine." "It's raining heavily," he interrupted gently. "Please." She nodded, thanking him. As they walked under the soft drizzle, Leela slipped her small hand into his. It felt warm, alive. That night after they left, Adrian didn't go home immediately. He sat there, staring at the empty chair where Leela had been. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. He looked out the window and whispered, "Maybe I'll start talking to the stars again." The next few evenings he came back at the same time. Leela would run to him, always with a drawing or a story. Her mother, Claire, would smile from behind the counter, watching her daughter light up the cafe with laughter. Adrian started bringing small gifts: books, cookies, crayons, not expensive things, just things that made Leela happy. Slowly, the silence in his life began to fade. He started helping around the cafe, fixing the old window latch, ordering supplies for Claire when the delivery truck was late. He even laughed with customers sometimes. But one night, everything changed again. Adrian arrived to find the cafe closed early. The lights were off, the chairs stacked. Just as he turned to leave, he saw Claire sitting on the curb, her head in her hands. Leela sat beside her, crying softly. "What happened?" Adrian asked, rushing forward. Claire looked up, eyes red. The landlord wants to sell the building. I can't afford the new rent. We'll have to close next week. Adrian's heart twisted. This place, their little sanctuary, was about to vanish. He looked at Leela, who clutched her stuffed rabbit tightly. We can't move again, she whispered. Mommy promised we stay. That night, Adrian couldn't sleep. He stared at the city skyline from his penthouse, surrounded by everything money could buy, but feeling none of it mattered. For the first time, he wanted to use his power not to make profits, but to protect something real. The next morning, when Claire arrived at the cafe, a man in a black suit was waiting outside with a document in hand. It was the building's ownership deed. What is this? She asked, confused. Adrian smiled gently. A new beginning. She shook her head. I can't accept this. I don't want charity. It's not charity, he said softly. It's an investment in good people, in hope. You and Leela gave me something money never could. Let me return the favor. Tears filled her eyes as Leela ran into his arms. Does this mean we can stay? She asked. Yes, sweetheart, Adrian said, his voice trembling. You can stay. That evening, the cafe reopened. Warm lights glowed again, laughter filled the air, and for the first time in years, Adrian sat at his usual table, not alone but surrounded by people who cared. Leela handed him a drawing, a man, a woman, and a little girl under a sky full of stars. That's you, she said, pointing to the man. You're not lonely anymore.